Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cleaning and Cocktails. You know the deal, where I bring other cleaning industry professionals on set. My favorite is when we do in person. And especially when I bring friends and colleagues and peers. John Brady here, CEO of St. Moritz Building Services in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A good friend of mine, a colleague, a peer, industry expert, leader, spoke at Cleaning and Cocktails in DC as well.
2 years ago.
Yeah. So again, you guys, thank you for joining us. I got an exciting episode. We've been shooting content all day. There's going to be some nuggets that John drops that I'm just excited to share with you all. So John, we always start these episodes with the cleaning industry. Like, how did you get into the cleaning industry? Because to me, it's a sexy and awesome industry, but to many others, it's a dirty industry and not so sexy. But you're in it. You've been in it for a while. Just, start from the beginning.
Sure.
With the journey.
So first of all, it is very stable. It might not be sexy, but it's very stable. And that's something that Phil St. Moritz, our founder, told me 20 years ago. Hard to believe. So I met our owner in 2005. We happened to go to the same college undergrad, albeit only about 50 years or 40 years apart or whatever. But great entrepreneur, and so I met him in 2005. Started as an account executive in at the time it was just our Pittsburgh office was all we had. So started as an account executive. Really, as he would say whenever he met me, you think you're going to think this is just emptying waste cans and running a vacuum. It's way more complex than that. You have no idea until you get into it. It's not for the faint of heart, he would say. But what he was proud of is that if you and what I realized is that he built something that is like a luxury brand. So what our customers were accustomed to was getting good service, paying a little bit of a premium for it, but really just letting the team run hard and take care of the customer. So I love that culture. He's very passionate about his people, taking care, doing the right thing. So 20 years later, I'm still I love our industry. It's not easy, but I love the challenge of it. Love our team. Love the strategy side of it. And so we were just in Pittsburgh at that point in 2005, and then in 2007, Phil made two acquisitions that got us out of just that market. So currently we're in 17 states, probably more bricks and mortar, probably more like 4. Mm-hmm. So headquartered in Pittsburgh, and my role kind of, as we grew, my boss at the time took on more responsibility, which meant Phil entrusted me to do a little bit more in Pittsburgh. And at 23 or 24 years old, had a responsibility and a title that I had no business having, right? Yeah. And a lot of tenured guys that gave me a lot of grace when they probably didn't want to hear from a young guy on what to do or how to do it. But God's been good. I've been blessed from that perspective. And we just had a phenomenal team. So.
Dude, that's awesome, man. So, and that kind of leads me to my other question of, 20 plus years you've been in the industry, started from an account executive. What was it? So obviously St. Moritz itself, I got to believe, and we'll talk about it later, is the culture, the people, the team, lot of reason why you stay there. But what was it about the industry that kept you attentive, right? Like, you could have left. Your career trajectory has been with this brand.
I just fell in love with our industry, to be honest with you. It's authentic. You cannot fake relationships in our industry, and each day is so different. So I think all. Maybe, I didn't start the business, so Phil, yourself, others that started a cleaning company and had to make it work. He would say, in 1968, he had about $1,100 in equity in a van, and he needed to make $20,000 in sales the first month, or it wasn't going to happen. And here we are. I mean, he's passed. Rest in peace.
I think he's done more than 20,000.
Right, but he had that drive and that competitiveness to succeed. But I like the fact that. I get to touch just about anything and everything, and I think our industry is so cool because on the ground level we're subject matter experts in just about everything, right? Mm-hmm. Finance, manufacturing, software, people, which is where my heart mostly is on the people side of it. But you can go from anywhere from a raw paper mill, which is a client of ours in Georgia, where it's nasty, but they do amazing things that we need to have done, all the way to a corporate headquarters. Like you become basically a case study consultant in all these different types of businesses.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. It's really fun from that perspective.
Dude, and I told you questions are going to come on the cuff.
Go for it.
No, you just touched on something that I've shared with a lot of the audience and just people in general when we're talking. That is so true. Where like here in Chicago, I just love walking by buildings that I know I touched. Like we cleaned that building. We did that one. We did the post-construction there. We did a one-off project there. Like that is what is pretty cool about our spaces. It's not one certain client that we work with. Manufacturing, retail, healthcare, entertainment venues, restaurants, like education. We touch a lot of different types. Right.
We talk about how fragmented our industry is too, because there's room for everybody, really. You can have a specialty in, controlled environments, right? Clean rooms, things like that are like super specialized, and you have to know process and procedure and protocol, all the way down to, final cleans, post-construction cleans. They could be as nasty and dirty, and I mean, you gotta have an appetite for all of it. You got to know what you're good at, I think.
Yeah.
But I think having some diversity and being, we talk about risk taking and not being totally tied into one vertical, not being totally tied to maybe just one method of how things could be done. And what Phil really saw even 20 years ago was like he wanted to get out of just being in Pittsburgh because there's only so much you can grow in just one market or whatever. But something else that I think is really cool about our industry, and you ask why stick around or whatever, to really build connection. And you think about like if you to have a relationship with a customer, you'd have to build trust with the CEO of a bank, and it's probably harder to build trust with the guy or gal who cleans that person's office.
Yeah.
Because they are authentic and they know whether you're full of it or not.
Yep.
And that's what's really cool is like you can be the best version of yourself. You can be authentic, and people are going to call you out if you're not. So that's what I love about it.
That's the truth, man. And it's funny, like you said, again, it's not just cleaning. Like, I remember in the beginning, I always talk about this all the time in so many different episodes, is like the first few years, I didn't really talk about owning a cleaning company, right? It was just like, oh yeah, I got a business. I got a small business on the side. I didn't pump my chest about it. But something that you just reminded me of is like, let's talk about a post-construction clean. Early on when I was doing some of these bids, John, it was like, hey, Rick, you have a cleaning company, right? I'm like, yeah. I need the site cleaned up and ready for the next project or next thing. I'm like, okay. I would get there, dude. It was like
it's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. And then I would clean it. So again, I'm learning on the go. So then I started to understand like, this is not just cleaning. Like I just clean and I come back the next day and it's like I didn't clean.
It's actually worse than what you
like,
started with.
There's something here. I'm like, all right, and I kept doing it. And dude, I'm not reinventing the wheel, but like our approach turned into, oh, you want us to post-construction clean? Okay, cool. This is going to be a rough phase, a make ready phase, and a final phase. Right. And they're like, hold on, I just need a proposal for like post-construction cleaning. I'm like, no, I know it's a 3-phase approach. I know you're going to keep coming back in, so it's going to be rough.
You're educating the customer along the way.
And they're like, this is like a program. I'm like, this is not just cleaning.
This is what you need, actually. Yeah, trust us.
And when you started to do that, like to your point, is we are just not cleaners.
Right.
Like there is cleaning techniques, there is programs. So if we look at it that way, which me and you were talking about earlier, you stand out. And that's something that I was going to ask you is, all right, so we talked about fragmentation, and it's very fragmented. But what is it? What secret sauce, or how does one stand out and reach that and break through? Yeah. What success looks like, even though success could be different for everybody, but the numbers, like it's far on one side that is less successful to get to the level of success that many think.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably depending on the type of the size of your organization, the type, whatever your focus is, it's getting out of our comfort zone. That's probably the hardest thing. You and I joke earlier about, I'm a big bottleneck. I can be, You and I were joking about that, right? Is that so I've been at our group for 20 years. Some of the things I did 15 years ago, I kind of want to hold on to because I like them. I'm good at it, right? I feel good whenever I feel like I've accomplished something. And I think as your team evolves, as your company evolves, as your customers evolve, breaking through can mean anything. You know, it could mean trying something different. It could mean taking a risk on something that you've been on the sidelines for. You know, I'm fairly conservative. You know what I mean, and I'll say it. You know, so
yeah, you were talking about, Rick, I don't like to disrupt too many things.
My view is usually, you know, kind of step back, give the team all the resources they need, and let's go run hard and take care of the customer. Where the customer takes us, that's whenever we will go, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy to say you're going to do something, and we get into client retention and things like that. We're very retention focused. That's our strategy. It's a core value for us. It's something that is kind of a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
You can't predict when you're going to not keep something, though.
Yeah.
So you do have to have a mind for growth and taking risk. But you know, to answer your question, I think really challenging myself to get out of some of the things that it's just as an organization getting out of our comfort zone at times, which is. There's friction. There's friction involved.
But you can get past it.
Yeah.
Like you will. Like if you ever think about, I mean, you know, this happens to me so many times. John is like, in the moment, it's the end of the world. It's like, nah, man. How is life going to move forward? I lost this big client. This employee left. This happened. Like in that moment, it's like you don't see ahead, but like you end up like look back.
Right.
That happened.
Right.
That happened.
I think that as an emotional, I would categorize myself, you know, in communication style, in how I try to perform, lead, whatever you want to say, be a coworker, be a peer, whatever. I'm empathetic, emotional, which is good in so many ways. In other ways, it can be a barrier because I just latch on to certain things that are relational based or relationally based. So to your point is like, you know, when you have those experiences, allowing yourself, okay, that's how I know I'm maybe pre-wired. Getting out of my comfort zone is either providing some boundaries for myself or being firm when I'd rather maybe not. Who wants to wants to be the guy that does that all the time, right? But that's important.
I like you said pre-wired.
Yeah.
But you have to then rewire. Right. Right. So let's talk. You just elaborate on it a little bit, but dig a little further on. Actually, let me phrase the question because you did touch on it. Is you said you lead from empathy.
Yep.
You're an empathetic leader. You lead from the heart. You said that earlier. Do you think there's room for you to lead with heart if you have the right team and leadership team or team members to then hold the other pieces accountable? Because you can't always just lead from the heart. Right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we all have someone to report to, right? I mean, I think resource-wise, I hate being taken advantage of, and I don't like being wasteful, right? So like those are two like guiding principles for me that I think you can have two paths. I think you can hold people accountable and still love on them, if that makes sense, right? So as we kind of coach and counsel our supervisors, our area managers, people that have conflict that they have to deal with every day, that's basically what we do.
It's life.
We joke that say,
are you a therapist?
No. Been through quite a few executive coaching sessions to know where my strengths and weaknesses are. But being comfortable in that uncomfortable space, and again, you can have difficult conversations and you can still love on folks, and it's not mutually exclusive. And being comfortable with that, and also, Rick, I think you can't fix every problem every day.
Oh.
So you got to be okay with the ugly stuff sometimes and be like, hey, I know we got warts and blemishes. I can't fix them all today because I gotta go home. I got some other priorities, and we'll get into a little later. Like identity as a business leader is hard. We expect to win. We expect to excel. We expect good things to happen. We kind of lament and beat ourselves up when they don't. Yeah. So, I was joking with you before, like, one cube of like happy emotion or positive emotion, equal size cube of negative emotion, but they weigh different. Yeah. The negative weighs probably 3 times as much. So you can't fix everything every day. You got to give people space to make decisions. You got to empower them, but then periodically you do have to course correct, right? Yeah. So that
I am so past trying to fix everything. Like, dude, I have been told stop trying to fix things. Right. You're making it worse.
Right.
But Jesus, I know you're there, but I'm looking at you here. I want to see a visual of what we just talked about. The small cube is a win, with the big cube is a loss. Because, dude, it weighs heavy.
Yeah, it does.
Right? It weighs very heavy. Like we talked about, you really don't get to celebrate the wins. You should, but what do we do as humans? We celebrate the win, but quickly think about, well, what's the
Right.
negative part?
Right.
You said that perfect, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the losses.
Sure.
So now, again, we don't have to go too deep, but I thought it was fitting when you shared that analogy of just the cubes and the wins and the losses. You were coming into, flat. Actually, you guys know what? John flew in for this. We spent the whole day. Just wait to see how much content we got, guys. But you had said, like, man, Rick, there's something to be said about talking about losing a client
Right.
or losing
I
opportunity.
texted you
Yeah.
early or late or something, and I'm like, you should have a piece about how to lose a contract with grace,
Yeah.
or how to gracefully lose a contract or whatever, because so much of the self, so much of what we're trying to coach each other as an industry or whatever is, hey, how to win business,
How do you win business?
how to keep business, how to operate efficiently, and then as leaders, and then you're leading your team, and you're looking at these faces that have worked really hard on an assignment, and all of a sudden it's not there anymore, and you want to fight for them. And then the longer you're in this business, it's kind of like what you said before, like, oh man, how are we going to recover from this? So the first time you lose something that you worked hard on, I remember exactly where I was, each time, and you don't think the sun's going to come up tomorrow, but it does. And I think you learn over time too, is how do I keep my dignity throughout this? Like, I'm not going to be validated. And the client isn't going to call me the last day and be like, hey, we made a big
You're
effing
good.
mistake. Don't pull your shit out. You know what I mean? Keep your stuff here. We want to keep you here. It does not happen that way. And so to lose with grace means taking your medicine. You know what I mean? Going out, honoring your obligations, and you go through all those emotions of like anger. You know what I mean? What did I do wrong? You might blame somebody else. You're going to blame the new person that's involved, the new client. It's the client's fault. Or maybe we didn't price it right. Maybe if only we would have done this or done that. Maybe we asked for too big of an increase last time, or we charged this. All those things go into it. You second guess yourself. There's also a component of there's some freeing nature in it, because a lot of the contracts that we have, a lot of the obligations, a lot of the day-to-day that we all do is predicated upon client satisfaction and retention. And so if you think about how you spend your day-to-day and knowing that doors are going to open and doors are going to close, I'm going to work hard.
Regardless.
I'm going to work hard the best I can to honor the obligations that we have. I'm going to eat what's on my plate in front of me, try to prepare and plan for what's ahead. And then all of a sudden that door closes.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You want to prepare yourself, go out on top as best you can. And guess what? Probably half of those times you're going to get an opportunity. You don't want to burn a bridge on the way out.
So you guys, come on. I mean, you guys, that like, and I love, say it again though, so we can capture it. But you said how to lose an account with grace. Is that how you said it?
How to lose with grace.
Yeah.
How to lose with grace, and expect to be kicked when you're down. And here's what I mean by that is, we often think, because we try to position ourselves as I wouldn't say a luxury provider, but that's the feel that we want our customers.
Yeah, that's
to
the
have.
feeling that you want they to have.
We want every interface, whether that's if an employee has a question about their check, they need something, they need urgent response. We want every interface, every touch point to be superior, and we expect a little bit of price premium for that, right? So it's not, but you got to be competitive.
But you're rightfully going to get it. And when you ask for it, or maybe not even ask, because you're, again, day to day, you're doing it.
Right.
That's
consistency. That's what we expect, right? So oftentimes, if there is a change made, we believe that it's price driven, and price drives a lot. You got to know where the market is, and you got to find ways to drive costs out of your system. But what I have found is that customers, when they make decisions that is based upon price, they have to justify it in other ways too, because they don't want to assume that their stakeholders that they've made just a price-based decision, right?
There's always going to be a couple of ancillary.
Right, so they're going to be like, hey, there's this new technology that we learned from Rick, and John doesn't have it. We're going to give him a shot. Or there was these experiences that were bad. You couldn't recover from this or that. So expect to be kicked a little bit, and it's going to hurt. Yeah. Because if you put pride into what your program is, and then we lose business. You can't control it. Your relationships change, ownership changes. You and I were talking about that before. You might have something that you've worked really hard to build.
God knows I got one right now. Right? It's like, come on.
And the storm comes through, the water comes through, and it just crushes it. But expect to be hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
And what happens is your skin gets a little bit hardened over time
Yeah.
in a good way, in that you know that you just can't control certain things.
I mean, it's preparation. I
Yeah.
mean, there's if you don't mind sharing the tip, I'll remind you of it, but we were talking outside by the whiteboard session, and you were talking about know your clients. You're talking about something about the accounts receivable.
Yeah.
What did you call it something?
Well, I just think,
right?
I think it's helpful for us to know the health financially of our clients, because here's a nugget to look into the content on client retention, and we try to look, a contract year for us is if we're within 12 months of our contract renewing, and it's very important for us to retain. We're focused on that. Well, in that year, we're on like a campaign tour, basically. We're doing our quarterly business reviews. We're making sure that the staffing is good. I mean, is the service good?
So you mean politics are about cleaning too?
Politics cleaning is about everything. We'll say about politics about everything, but it is important to your direct question is how healthy is our client financially? Because maybe if in the commercial office space right now, they're trying to get refinancing. It's not easy. They might have to give it back to the lender. Your receivables might get extended. You got some tough decisions to make from that perspective.
But we as the BSC
Yes.
owner or just leadership, we can get access, or we could be thinking about looking for that information because it is a part of it.
Yeah, if publicly traded, I try to really look at the stocks of our clients. I like to know when their investor, when their investor, like their ratings come out and things like that. Are they hitting their targets? Because
it's a ripple effect.
It is a ripple effect direct down to either procurement. What type of initiative are we going to see each year? Is there going to be a cost cutting mode, or if they're really producing well or doing well, then they're going to be service driven, right? So you're constantly balancing between we know we have to be price competitive.
Yeah.
We know we have to be useful with our resources, and when you want to find that market where it is. We try to be a little bit higher than it, but perform to justify it. But it might move 15 points because someone's saying, hey, we're cutting out this whole component of our program. Fine, we're happy to do it. We change the bar up or down. Let's go then.
But again, think about what the offensive that you're taking there, getting ahead of some of these things, and again, you're not trying to bring it up with the client to bring it up, but you're just in the know. And in being in the know, better preparation allows you for better execution.
We say we want to give our clients ammunition to retain us. So some of that is price driven. Some of that is if you've been at a client long enough that you're able to have a little bit more flexibility in your financial piece. You might say, hey, we're gonna fund a wage increase now, even though we're not going to change your price, or we're going to make this investment in equipment, even though maybe it doesn't make sense financially if you were doing everything by the books. And we're going to hold your price firm for a year. So we want to share with your stakeholders that we have skin in the game to stay here. But you just don't want someone to have some leverage over you whenever you're going into that renewal time frame.
Yeah, nice. So let's talk about the quote. So say the quote again about humility, but then because I kept it on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
But share the quote with the audience, and then elaborate. What does that quote make you feel?
Yeah. This is actually from a marriage ministry that my wife and I are a part of, but it translates to any relationships, right? So we're prideful, we have egos, leaders especially. You're kind of conditioned to think that everything is great because of what you do or what I do every day, right? And that's just the opposite of it. But especially whenever there's conflict, Rick, I think I go back to this and I like it. But the quote is that humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. So if you think of hey, I'm beneath something.
Write that down.
I'm beneath something, as opposed to I'm just going to think of myself less often and think of others or allow, it's servant leader, is the goal, right? I mean, it's not easy to do every day. No. In fact, it's probably harder than just being
just a leader.
Right.
Yeah. It adds that extra layer of, caring more, or caring more about others than yourself, right? Like yours is, you take a step back, really.
And I think the dividends in the here and now, it's not easy to do. Nothing's easy, I don't think. But I think if you really care about creating a culture where people feel heard and known. And again, if you can align on, we're here to take care of the customer, but we want retention of our staff too. We want our team members to know there's a pathway here, and it includes maybe having some competing views sometimes, right? And so humility is not easy. We also talk about
it's powerful. Though,
it is powerful.
It is really
Rick, yeah.
like it is. There's something about the dynamic of a team or an organization when humility is accepted and okay and actually promoted,
right.
because like, dude, it makes a lot more room for mistakes,
right?
Because they are going to happen. There's going to be issues, but get through it by supporting each other. And like, again, it's not about you. It could be about the situation.
Yeah, you asked before how to BSCs break through. How do you scale? That's a huge. I mean,
it might be that right. They're one of those.
It could be letting go of something and just allowing someone else to make mistakes or be in that space to feel like they're going to be supported if they do something or make a recommendation that's a little bit different than maybe how you or I would do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but dude, it's crazy. Like again, it's hard sometimes, John. I think me and you get it, right? But like, I'm all about that. Like it actually drives me and fuels me more to be humble or to like allow others to jump in on it. But it isn't everybody, right? Like what we're going to talk about right now is stuff that we were talking about in Puerto Rico, not last year, but 2 years ago, is the difference of opinion, right? And like the complementing skill sets.
Yeah.
Like you were like, I could see the passion behind you
Sure.
talking about it. Like like nobody else existed but me and you, and we went deep for like 30 minutes right there.
Remind me, I could share it now. It's kind of funny, but when we were talking in Cancun just a few months ago or whatever, my wife was like, I don't know who John's talking to. They're swearing. They're like they're talking about software or something.
Passionate.
But yeah, they're passionate.
So that's 2 times in a row.
Right,
now. Like we just zone in. Like dude, Marley's told me that before too. She's like, sometimes when you talk to people, it's like nobody else is around. I'm like, hey man,
that's a gift.
We're focused.
Yeah, that's a gift. I think having diversity, and we'll often joke that our style of engagement and leadership is that we want to know what's happening in people's lives. We are invested, and we want to be more than just coworkers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but there's, if you're siloed, if everyone thought like I did or like you did, or had the same skill sets as Jesus, or like we need differences of opinions, and it's going to stretch you at times, and it's important as long as the tone is and I think we talk a lot about giving grace in relationships, meaning that we want to. Here's another little nugget, right? But and I use it often. I try to use it with my kids. But we want to be judged based upon our intentions, but we judge others based upon their actions. So if you cut me off, and I'm like, "What the F is this guy doing?" Right? Like, doesn't he know what I got going on or whatever? And maybe you're on the way to the hospital, or you know what I mean? But yet if we cut someone off and we know, they're like, they don't know what I got going on. So we judge others based upon what they do, but we want to be judged based upon what we think our intentions are before we act. So we want to be for each other, and we want to give grace. And that doesn't mean that it's easy, but the longer that you work with people, especially if you have complementing or different skill sets, it's going to come up and you're going to have friction. And most of the time, when you have here's where I love our team, is that when we have some big project or big assignment, it's like we're climbing Mount Everest. Everyone is lockstep in line, and they know exactly what to do. It's probably when we don't have some big project or something that we're a little bit more focused on some other things. So
that's a great point.
You just got to weather the storm. This is really what I got to tell myself too, because I focus a lot on people's relationships within each other. I can't control that necessarily. So that's something I got to let go, even in my own ego. But definitely just thinking the best of each other. It's not easy.
No, dude, and that's a great example. Again, because you guys know we always, a lot of the feedback that we'll get, John, from the audience and anybody who ever gives us, great feedback, is the audience loves to hear about shared experience. I told you earlier, like, man, anything we talk about, just share your experiences. Because like nothing better than shared, because there's a lot of people that will give advice, but it's like, man, have you been in our shoes though? Like, have you really lived those moments where, to your point on being lockstep, and when the storm is coming, and the fact if you have a great team, right? Teams always come together in those moments.
Right.
It's funny that you say like it's the like small little things that end up being the bigger thing, because it's like, I thought you had it. No, I thought you had it. Well, I thought you were supposed. It's like when it's the big storm though.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Right.
I mean, not that the other stuff doesn't matter, but like being lockstep, joining forces, opinions don't even matter anymore. It's just, what is a common North Star?
Right.
Let's get after it. Like, in the other office, have you been to the other office? Mm-mm. Some people love it. Some people hate it. More people love it. The first sign you see is get shit done, right? Like, walk into our office. That's the common mantra. Mantra is, let's just get it done.
Right.
Like, by all means necessary, but do it together. Like, you don't have to do it siloed. But I like the term lockstep. I think more people in our industry should use that, because that is what gets you over the hump.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about it many times. I think humility is one thing, man. I want to bring that up more often when I talk to people. I think that, not that it may be the secret sauce, but if we get out of the way of each other and work with each other, being humble is it.
Here's what I have done that is a mistake: is I would try to manipulate certain situations to maybe avoid some conflict at times, when in reality, that needs.
I hate conflict. No, I'm kidding.
It is healthy sometimes, and a lot of times, guess what? Without me doing anything, it resolves itself.
Yeah. Because
there is that North Star, which is we're taking care of the customer, or we have an opportunity we're excited to execute on or achieve on. So I think obsessing over certain things before just letting them happen. Sometimes the locker room stuff is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And it bubbles over, and then you're fine. You keep moving, and I can have a tendency of putting too much emphasis on it when it's really not even that big of a deal.
Yeah. Dude, and so as we come to an end, there's a couple more points. One for sure that I want to talk about, which you touched on earlier, is the identity piece. But as you just said, locker room, that made me think of, we always think it's the end of the world as when we want to see success. It's like, if I'm not involved, I can't do it. So one thing I think of is, there's many companies that follow the show, and they want to grow. They see them. They want to go from 1 million to 5 to 10 to 20 to grow. What I want to reiterate to them, which I think you can share some knowledge on, is it doesn't get easier. It actually gets harder. You probably still work. Actually, one of the points we were going to bring up, remember, is you're still in the business to some degree.
Yeah, you have to be.
Even at 40, 50 million in revenue where you're at, right? Is don't expect things to get easier, right? The more you grow, the more problems are going to probably arise, because you're breaking through. Right. Can you touch on that a little bit?
I just think, Rick, to that, and I think most business coaches would say the same thing to us, is that you have to replace yourself. Meaning that if there's a task, and we joked about this before, if there's a task that is relying upon me to move it from here to here, and that's the only way that it's going to happen, then it needs to be re-engineered, because I am a big bottleneck. And it's not, and I probably hold on to things because they make me feel good, right? Like a client likes when I do a QBR. I love QBRs, right? Like I get to kind of present and say, like, here's all the shit we're doing well for you, and you guys are happy, right? Like, it makes me feel good. But it's going to keep coming back to some bottleneck or some friction that I'm actually a part of. Whether, when I got to St. Moritz, we were 14 million or so. We're 40. We did 42. Like, we're a consistent kind of stable growth, but we could lose, and we have lost some big chunks of that revenue that we're excited for those doors to close and doors to open. So you have to. I have to scale myself right for the long term. We talk about identity, Rick. Is like I love work. I love our business. I love our team. I love our customers. It's an idol almost. Like, it's not. I need to keep that in check. And I think identity, especially when you own your business, that's your livelihood. Yeah. Your family is involved to some extent. Like, my kids know. They know our customer names. They know like the people quit. They're like, he quit at Glen. You let him back. Whatever. And that's the cleaning industry, and we love it. It's the service industry. But being able to separate my identity as a person from the business, and that's probably easier said than done, because I'm not necessarily I didn't start. Yeah. I take ownership of it now, and I'm thankful to be a part of that story. But I have to separate that from, if something happens at work that is devastating to me as a human, my priorities are probably somewhat out of whack, and they're going to keep. That's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening. There's no light switch from it. It's just trying to be aware and balance. Some things, easier said than done. But if you're trying to break through, if there's that one thing that you've always done, test the waters. give it to someone else and see what happens. And really, you have to want it to succeed. We talked about that too. I think there's times when our ego would be like, yeah, I'll let Rick handle this meeting. We'll see how it goes, but they'll be back. Or I kind of maybe want it to fail. You know what I mean? Just secretly or whatever. Give something away and actually allow that person to succeed or fail, but help them get there. And guess what? You'll be able to find some other component of the business that you can help thrive.
Oh yeah, man. So, as we're coming to an end now, I have something to say that I wanted to say at the end, but I actually want to leave you a little bit more space to just share. One thing I forget to always ask is, we're in 2025, year just started. What are you looking forward to in the next 1 to 3 to 5 years? Not just the industry, but like you, St. Moritz, like your path into where you're growing into.
So great question. We have 25 is going to be an amazing new year full of new challenges, but actually opportunities. We've had some realignment in our client mix. Had some great big partners that we're just going in different directions for 25. So, the beauty is that we have some team members that are, you talk about lockstep, that love our company and our culture and our team. And we're able to, it's going to force us to align a little bit more. And which means now we can go attack some new things that we've maybe been a little hesitant on in the past. So, 1 year, really, seeing just the realignment focus, 3 year, 5 year, really seeing how we can get exposed into some new geography. And also,
I think Route's going to help you with that.
Yes, sir, it is. Yeah, we're a Route customer, by the way. Just to plug that. But so I see a season of change for us, and I need to take a step back at times because I think as a leader you put all that onus on yourself as opposed to sharing the load a little bit. But I'm excited. I really am. Doors closed, doors open, and I'm excited to see what's next for us.
Nice, man. All right. Well, something for you is, all right, so it's Phil St. Moritz.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So I would be talking to Phil and Phil's family, right? Is to say, and to our industry is like, so I'm the owner of Rosalato with my wife and my cousin and our family, right? So we're a family business. We own our business. My challenge to everybody who's a business owner is, so John is not the original owner, not the original founder, but look at, dude, just in the last 45 minutes, you've been talking, you're passionate about the company. It's like your own company. You are now stakeholder in the company. You've grown with the business. Why I highlight these things, man, is like, we're going to cheers in a second, but like as us owners that are getting in our way sometimes, and we think we have to own everything, and change is hard, and family has to own everything, and we have to. You're an example of find the right talent, find the right people. They grow within the business, and your company can grow. Like the mission and what his vision was years ago, it's living through you. Yeah. So congratulations to you, and like through how you've grown with the business and the way you care about the company is. That's what excites me about Rosalato too. With what we have is. We've got family, but we've got non-family that they care, live, breathe. This business, this brand, that's one of my ideas of a secret sauce is the people. If you have the right people in place, dude, you're again, you could move on as an owner and take a step back, but have people like yourself, man. So this is to you. Salute.
Salute.
A little bit of tequila. Salute to you guys.
Centani.
Yes, that is a Route logo on the shot glass. Just want to let you know. All right, man. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. You guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Cleaning and Cocktails. Till the next one.